Further ado, I request Very Honorable Shahbaz Alam Sir to kindly come on the stage, take the dais, and have an interactive session with Dr. B.P.N. Prasad, former Drug Controller General of India. So two iconic intellectual people talking to each other, and let's give them a huge round of applause.
Hello everybody. It is an opportunity for me, being a regulatory guy. I have my regulatory company, Meher Pharma International, involved into the regulatory consultancy out here in India. And I have experience of various countries about the dossier documentation, drug safety, and clinical, non-clinical as well. What is happening in India, we have to understand very well. Right now with me is the former Drug Controller General of India, Dr. Prasad, and he is such a knowledgeable person I never met in my life actually. The most important thing that I'm going to discuss out here with Prasad sir, Indian manufacturers are investing a lot for the manufacturing, buying manufacturing machineries, F&D, R&D and everything, but they are not expending money for the upgradation of skills, especially when we talk about the regulatory. I am just sharing one experience. The EU GMP approved plant in North, and my product got stuck in Uzbekistan. Why? At the time of registration, the manufacturer has given a stability data of 2 years only. And while supplying the commercial consignment, they submitted the 36 months stability data. So FDA asked how it's possible. You have to share, you have to give the shelf life extension. And when I called back to the manufacturing department, especially who was dealing the drug regulatory, he was not aware about that. He was asking what is the shelf life extension. So sir, there is a question. Do you want to suggest Indian manufacturers about investing for the skill upgradation of the, especially when we talk about the regulatory kind of thing? Because they are not expending much for the regulatory. They are just buying the pharmacist and just giving the rough training for that. They're not giving the proper training actually. They require proper training to understand the various stability zones actually, so that they can understand things very well. No one can change the stability data at random. They should follow the ethics, but they are not well aware about the rules and regulations. So what do you think that this is need of the hour for the manufacturing?
Thank you, Shahbaz ji, Anita ji, and the Pharma Ratna University for inviting me to this wonderful session, and had been interacting for the last 2 or 3 times in this Pharma Ratna programs. And it's a great honor to be here among yourself and all the esteemed manufacturers, experts, and other regulators, my ex-colleagues also. So what you have been asking about the regulatory issue, manufacturers, the people spend on manufacturing equipment, wonderful facilities, 5-star facilities. What is lacking is your concern is the skills. The skills of especially the regulatory understanding, the regulatory sciences rather understanding, to which country, what are the requirements, when you are talking about particular concern in EU GMP about the stability issue. As you all know, it is earlier, now we have transformed the level of understanding from mere quality control. At one stage, we used to talk about quality assurance. Now, the next level is regulatory affairs, and regulatory compliance is another issue. Now, we have reached that stage, and now every industry, earlier QC, QA, hai kya? Now, regulatory department is separate, division is there to take care of these things, while dossier submissions, dossier reviews, and even making applications, it has become a big exercise, because ultimately, whether it's you are developing a drug or innovating a drug, ultimately the regulatory clearance is required to put it into the market. The three mandates of any regulatory requirement is quality, safety, and efficacy. Now you are touching about the quality. Well, already the drug is safe and efficacious, is already approved in the market. When you are going into the EU GMP area, you have got a problem of 2 years registration, and that is expired, and now because EU countries, they want a 3-year shelf life. Two issues are there. What is that product? Whether it's a drug substance, that is API, whether it's a drug formulation. Which type of formulation is another issue. Extension of shelf life, for those products which are manufactured in India, extension of shelf life is given by the DCGI. Extension of shelf life, NOCs, are issued by Drug Controller of India. Because as you know, the zones are divided across geographically, it is divided into zone 1 to zone 4. And we fall somewhere in India, fall somewhere zone 4A or 4B. But when the product from India is migrating, is shipping to European area, which part of European area is very important, because the climatic conditions in that particular country is important. So two issues are there in the stability issues. One is temperature, the other is humidity. These needs to be taken care of, and those simulated studies needs to be carried within India. If it is a manufacturer, those simulated studies needs to be carried, so that regulatory submissions are there. So one is your problem, what you're told is somewhere struck and it's not cleared, because the regulatory people needs to see in that particular company, when it is going that product, what is the shelf life, what is the residual shelf life when it is reaching the shores, offshore, when it is reaching the other country. You need to see the regulatory problem. There is a regulatory understanding is the problem. And second, if you want an extended shelf life, when the shipping already happened there and extension shelf life, that may not be possible immediately. You need to have studies carried out the extension of shelf life, say it is 6 months or 1 year. Normally, there is no extension of shelf life from 2 years to 3 years. As per WHO norms or any ISH norms, it can be extension of shelf life can be given for 6 months. But that is for APIs and not for formulations immediately. Retesting, if the shelf life is there for APIs, retesting can be given first time and second time every 6 months, extended up to 3 years. But formulation, one which is already struck, it's not an easy exercise to get an extension and then get cleared in the ports. It's not easy. It has to come back. Because unless the studies, formulation studies, extension of shelf life is not an easy task. API is okay, you can, because it is due for expire and then it can be retested and then it can be extended shelf life once, twice, 6 months up to 3 years. But formulation, you need to have adequate studies. And the impact of the temperature and humidity is important. So you need to have adequate data for regulatory satisfaction for giving an extension of shelf life. So that's one issue. But again, within country, satisfying the DCGI or somebody or the state licensing authority is different from the one which there it is gone to EU or European area. So that is up to them to accept or not. That's a very important issue. Right? I hope you got my clarity. Yes. Tell me, sir. Yeah,
I have one last question.
Yes.
Every country is following the GDP, good distribution practices.
Yes.
And when we deal with the importers, they say that India is not following the completely GDP policy at all. So what do you want to say about the GDP acceptance out here? Are we following the GDP completely, or we need to follow? Is there any strategy or policy available?
A very important question. We all are interested in GMP, and not GDP. That is one important area where it was only a guidelines which was posted and never it has come into the statutory domain. We have that GXP is missing in our statutory D&C Act, Drugs and Cosmetics Act or rules or wherever it is. We know what is to be stored, how it is transported, all those issues are there. There is a GMP concept in Schedule M. Schedule Y are present, new drugs and clinical trial rules. There is GCP compliance is there. GDP is one issue which needs to be taken care of, and I feel it is high time that needs to be incorporated into the D&C rules. Because now you see, since there is no GDP as a mandatory compliance while issuing licenses, very minimum criteria is taken in storage and distribution stockist. If GDP is a mandatory compliance, then definitely this type of spurious drugs entering or unlicensed drugs entering into, entering into the market, probably it could be minimized, or, that can be reduced. Comparatively, substantially it can be reduced because of lack of GDP, because intervening into the market, entering into the market, at any point of time in the supply chain, it is being a serious concern. Now, why there is a QR code and all for top 300 brands is just introduced. But we need to understand that all stakeholders also must accept. Tomorrow, if the government says GDP has to be implemented, it should be some sort of a technology like a blockchain technology everywhere, all legal aspects, only legal entries, no manual entry should be there. Right from the manufacturer to the least to the consumer, if everything is digitalized and then it is controlled, I don't think there is any issue of spurious drugs or falsified drugs entering into the market. So I accept totally that good distribution practice should be implemented like what is happening in Europe. And if you feel, if you can go, this country can afford and the stakeholders can afford, that every sales premises shall also GDP compliance, it will be wonderful issue, and you will never see the talk of the town all the time, spurious drugs are happening or counterfeit or falsified is coming into the market. So that's really a wonderful issue that needs to be implemented, I feel, definitely. Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and valuable guidance to the industry. Thanks for coming all the way. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.